right, hey y'all. We are here today to talk about meditation. What it is, what it isn't, and how to do it. Now, why are you even thinking about meditation? Because most of us are unhappy most of the time. And if we're really honest about it, that's the way it is. And there's varying levels of that, but that's what it is, right? And the reason that we're unhappy most of the time is because we're always up here. We're always thinking about something. We are habituated to thinking all day, every day, from the time we get up to the time we go to bed. And that causes all kinds of different problems for us. Our habituation to thinking means that we're thinking all the time. You know, even in times of not doing anything, like brushing our teeth or laying in bed or taking a shower. This habituation to thinking means that we're thinking when we should be focused on something else. You know, so if we're working at our computer, we're probably not fully focused on working on the computer. We're probably background thinking about something else and always tapping over to look at something else and do something and check our phone or whatever. This habituation to thinking means that we are thinking in times that we should be enjoying the present moment. So maybe having a conversation with someone or having a nice dinner or being at the park or being out in nature and seeing some beautiful sights. Most of the time we are not completely present with that. We are probably thinking about something else as we're there. This habituation to thinking makes us very uncomfortable in space. Okay, so imagine if we come home and everything is clean and put away the way that we want it, and you know, momentarily we can't really think of anything that needs to be done. I think most of us would feel very uncomfortable just sitting down at the dining room table and not doing anything and having that space, right? Most of us would feel a compulsion to cut on the TV or to get up and do something or to continue to clean or to start tackling a to-do list or something like that. So we're very uncomfortable in space. And we're very uncomfortable in space with other people. So if we're in the presence of someone else and there's any period of silence, most of us feel like we have to fill that silence with something. That's because we're habituated to thinking. All right? This habituation to thinking is what leads to our critical and judgmental mind. This habituation to thinking is what leads to us being offended so easy and triggered so easy by other things. This habituation to thinking is the reason that we always think about worst case scenario type situations, and this habituation to think is really the root of most of our suffering, because we add to everything that happens in our life. You know, we had this layer of continuous thinking on top of it, and we interpret things the wrong way, and we just overanalyze, and we get offended, and we're critical mind, and all these different things. And it's because of our habituation to thinking, right? So that's why we want to work with something like meditation. So what is meditation? Meditation is going to clear the mind. It's going to cultivate focus and creativity. It's going to give you the capacity to learn to keep coming back to the present moment. You're going to cultivate this skill, and you're ultimately going to cultivate this capacity to notice your thinking, to notice yourself being critical, to notice yourself getting triggered, to notice yourself getting emotional, to notice yourself just thinking about all these different scenarios. And in the noticing, you start to break all that stuff up. And this is how we start to achieve true happiness, long-term happiness. Okay? It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. All right? So meditation is not about forcing clearance in your mind or not thinking. Because if I sit down and I say to myself, I'm just not going to think, I need to not think. Well, that's a thought. I'm already thinking, okay? And we don't want to have that kind of abrasive attitude towards the whole process anyway. It's not about like I got to sit down and meditate and clear my mind. And it's not a religious thing, you know, so it has no religious denomination whatsoever. And it's not about thinking about anything or visualizing. So there's a lot of meditations out there that are guided meditations that take you through some healing processes and some inward and outward journeys and all kinds of different beautiful things. And I'm not saying that those things aren't beneficial. They're extremely beneficial, and there's a place for those things. But I would consider that visualization. That is not meditation. Meditation should be about, I like to call it nitty-gritty sitting, right? So we're sitting, we have a deliberate, chosen focus. And on the backdrop of that focus, we should start to notice ourselves thinking, having conversations with ourselves. Maybe we're a few sentences into it, or maybe we're lost in some kind of soap opera, but at some point you would notice yourself thinking or gone, and then you would make the deliberate decision to come back to that focus, whatever it is, right? So it's almost like it's that three-step process. You have a chosen focus, you're deliberate about it. You notice yourself thinking, notice yourself lost in thought, notice yourself having conversations. And when you notice that, you acknowledge it, but then the third and final step is to come back to your focus. All right? Now, when we choose a focus, what's beautiful about it is we create natural space and thought. So one of our chosen focuses is we want to listen to sounds in the environment. Now, if you just take a moment right now and just listen to what's available to you, let's take a moment and just see what we have available to us. All right, in that moment, I have traffic off in the distance over here. You may have something similar. You may have birds or something outside. Maybe you're inside and you hear the hum of a refrigerator or air conditioning. But if you can acknowledge this, and maybe you didn't notice it, we'll do it again. As soon as I told you to listen for what you have available, in the listening, there's only listening. You created space and thought. You weren't thinking about anything. That's what meditation does, is it creates space and thought. By choosing a focus and focusing, you create space and thought. So let's do that again. Let's listen to what we have available. Now notice, in that listening, there's no thinking, there's space. Okay? That's meditation. Now, if we sat and listened for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, like guaranteed within 15 or 30 seconds, we'd start to think about something. And when we noticed that we were thinking about something, we would simply make the conscious decision. And by the way, when you think about something, there's nothing right or wrong about that. The thoughts just come. And if you have a really active mind, there's nothing wrong with that either, because I'd say that's more practice, right? But in the noticing of that thought, then I would make the decision to re-listen. And in the re-listening, there is space created again. And we're just looking to do that over and over and over in a sitting session, okay? It's like if I go to the gym and I lift weights and I do some repetitions, every repetition is making that muscle stronger, theoretically. And same in meditation. Every time I notice my thinking and I deliberately choose to come back to my focus, I create space and I'm strengthening my capacity to come back, okay? The next focus that we like to focus on is feeling the body. So when we feel the body, we can take a moment, and even right now, let's see if you can feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. Or maybe you can feel a breeze on your skin. Or if you're inside, maybe you can feel the pressure of the ground up against where you're sitting or your feet on the floor. Or you can choose to feel different parts of your body, so I can put my awareness in my hands, and if I put my hand out here, I can just kind of feel my hand. Right? I can put my awareness in any part of my body. And notice, when we just did that, we weren't thinking about anything. We created space and thought. Now eventually, as we were feeling, regardless of what we were choosing to feel, whether it's the sun on the skin or the breeze, or feeling body parts, or checking in with different body parts, at some point, as we were doing that, we would start to drift and start to think about something. And it may be just a subtle thought. It could be a couple of sentences. It could be paragraphs. It could be I'm gone. It doesn't matter. At some point you would notice that, and then you would just choose to come back and feel the body again. Okay? Our third focus we like to use is the breath, and that's a very traditional focus. When we focus on the breath, there's a lot of different ways that we can do it. You can think about just connecting with the breath. So right now, I want you to take a moment. I just want you to connect with your breathing. Connect with your breath. Follow your breath in and out. Allow your breath. That's a really good way to think about it or feel it. All right, now you should have noticed as you initially focused on connecting with your breath, you created space and thought. There was no thinking. Right now, if I said focus on your breath for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, again, guaranteed within 15 to 30 seconds, you would start to think about something. And again, it could be just a thought, it could be a few sentences, it could be gone, it doesn't matter. As soon as you'd notice that, you would just come back to connecting with your breath, and then you would create more space. Okay? Now, the reason that this is so beneficial is because, number one, I'm training focus. Okay, so if I have a focus, I notice myself drift, I come back to my focus, I'm enhancing and training my capacity to focus, which means that throughout my life, I'm going to notice better focus in all my activities, okay? I'm also, because I'm creating that space in my mind, that space and thought, I carry that with me throughout the day because I learn to start noticing thoughts and being distracted or whatever, and then I create natural space in my thoughts throughout the day too. And that lends itself to more creativity and inspiration because, most of our creative moments and inspired thought do not come when we're caught up in the mind going. It's usually when we're peaceful and calm and happy and we have some space. And then we also start to cultivate this capacity to notice ourselves being critical, being triggered, thinking worst case scenarios, just being lost in thought at random times. We learn to be more present. We learn to be more connected. And in the noticing of all these different triggers and thoughts and critical mind and all that kind of stuff, like we start to break that up and we start to bring more compassion into our lives. And there's just so many profound benefits that come from it. But the way that we get there, to cultivate the skill, we have to sit. We have to do the nitty gritty sitting, right? And that is, you have a timer and you sit, you choose your focus, you have a deliberate intention to have your focus, notice your thinking, come back to your focus, and do that over and over and over in a sitting session, okay? I think that is about everything that I wanted to cover today. That is what meditation is, what it's not, and how to do it. And stick around or look around, and I'm sure we'll have some guided meditations and some other videos associated with this information. It's so powerful. I can't even put into words how important this stuff is. If I had to focus my efforts on anything, I would say focus your efforts on what makes you healthy. Food and fitness and sleep. But meditation you can also work on, and you don't have to believe in anything or have your nutrition dialed in or any of that kind of stuff, because you can start this right now, all right? It's easier when you're healthy. It's easier when you have the food dialed in and you're sleeping good and all that, because you have a really clear mind and you're calm. But regardless, this is something that's extremely beneficial and so important. Okay, it's one of our little babies, and we're excited to help nudge you guys in the right direction with this information.